don't you start by sharing a bit about yourself and your role as the head of the academy?
Sure. I'm John Jordan. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina today, and have been with the
Good place
bank
to be.
almost. Yeah, it is beautiful today. Beautiful fall day. I've been with the bank for 19 years, and I've served in a number of different areas of the bank. During my tenure, I spent a lot of time out in the field managing various regions and divisions of the company. Over the past few years, I've taken some more corporate functions. So I led analytics for all of product in our preferred space. I led the innovation and client experience space for our consumer business. And a few years ago, we looked at just the needs for a continual investment in our people to help develop them to get ready for the future. And we founded something called the Academy. And it really started in our client-facing businesses. And over time, it's grown to the point where we now have joined forces with our corporate learning function and have created an academy for all of Bank of America.
So let's drill down, John, into what the academy is and sort of the motivation behind the creation of the academy.
Sure. It started really focused on the client-facing employees that we have at Bank of America. Obviously, that is really the face of the company. That's where all the action is with our clients. So it really began as a client experience initiative, and we focused our attention on a few things. One, we wanted to make sure that all of our employees could answer three important questions as they were onboarded into a role and as they were building their career here. First of all, can they be successful here? And so we've done a lot of investments just to make sure that we surround our employees in the academy with tools and resources, coaches, et cetera, that help them get ready for their job. And when you're in a client-facing role, you're coming from, you could be coming from another bank or another retail institution. You've got to make sure that you know all of our systems and that you know what a career path looks like here. And so we've done a lot of investment in terms of just coaching and mentoring and really explaining how you become successful here. Second thing is we really focus on answering the question, are you cared for here? So our onboarding processes have been really important. I'm sure there's various sizes of companies and people listening in today. Regardless, it's hard to communicate in those early days to make sure people understand all the benefits that exist for them. So a lot of the work that the Academy does during the onboarding process is communicating all the things that we do as a company around resources and benefits, and connecting to employee networks and making sure that people, when they come into the company, feel really cared for and connected to the company and to our culture. And then the last thing is we want to make sure people are proud to work here. So we spend a lot of time talking about all the things that we do in the communities, for the world, and the products and services that we create and why we've created them for our clients. So as we've built that out, we've really got hundreds of resources now that are dedicated to making that onboarding and that training experience a great one. And now that we've merged with our learning organization and truly have a corporate and global view of the world, we're focused on our college onboarding, people coming off of campuses, focusing on helping with technology training, really the full gamut, not just client facing, but really the global set of skills and needs of the company.
How does the structure of the academy compare to what other FIs are doing for similar functions?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that have been unique for our team. One is it's very hands-on. So we have academy managers that are stationed across the country in every market and every call center, that their whole focus is on training and onboarding and making sure that people are able to do their jobs. Sometimes that exists in other companies in different forms and fashions, but when usually it's a sort of a part-time resource or someone who's doing that as a part of their job. Something that's been unique about the way we put the academy together is we've fully dedicated these individuals to that job. And so every day they wake up and their whole role is to make sure that the people that they have responsibility for have the skills that they need to be successful. And they could be new hires, it could be people who've been promoted into that role, it could be a number of other things. Or just moving parts within the company. The other thing that we've done more recently is we've really turned on two things. One, we've really been listening to our employees from day one. So we survey them throughout the onboarding and training process so that we continue to make improvements. And so practice has become a really key linchpin of what makes the academy really run. It's not just materials that we present via the web or have some instructor-led training. This is real practice. And so we do
Mm.
that with direct interactions like this, especially in this virtual world where you and me would be practicing a conversation potentially. We've invested in new technologies like simulators and even virtual reality, which we're just rolling out right now to all of our financial centers. We're really proud to be one of the biggest and first big movers in virtual reality in the financial services business. And we think that that's going to help us get a lot of practice out in the field to help us be more successful.
I'm going to ask you some more questions about the virtual reality a little bit later, but I want to ask about your perspective in the role of a company manager and employee. What role do they play in an employee's development and career journey?
Yeah, I'd say the role of the company is largely environmental, meaning you're creating an environment where part of the culture is you want people to learn and develop, and you really set the expectation that career growth is and career just ongoing skill growth is part of who you are as a company. So it doesn't matter big or small. If you really set the stage that says, hey, here at this company, we want you to grow. We want you to learn. We're not going to lock you in a role. We're going to create an environment where we provide transparency and clarity about how you get from where you are to where you want to be. And we're going to provide as many tools and resources as we can. So for big companies, that looks one way, but even for small companies, investing in people starts with the environment. The next one, like you mentioned, the manager is really the delivery mechanism. I mean, that's the person who's going to prioritize it. If the company sets a great environment, but the manager's never really taking the time to coach or invest or connect or give feedback, then that's ultimately why employees leave. So much of where the rubber meets the road does come down to the manager. And we've spent a lot of time as a company really exploring the role of the manager. Have spent we've invested a lot in terms of our enterprise management development series, which is trying to create a common thread and a common focus across all managers at Bank of America. It doesn't matter what business you're leading in, that you have a common set of focus. And one of those is on coaching and development. The most important person in development is the individual. I mean, really, someone you want to hire for that if you can. It's very difficult, but you want to try to find people who are interested in lifelong learning, who want to grow, who don't want to stagnate. Because, it doesn't matter how much environmental stuff you put in place or how much your manager is encouraging you. Ultimately, you've got to own your own development, just like you've got to own your own health. I mean, no one's going to do it for you. You've got to do the work and spend the time. I think that just being someone who is who's focused on being a lifelong learner is one of the most critical things to any employee's success in the future, both now and always. Really, I mean, it's always been the case, being adaptable and willing to learn new things.
Given the question I just asked you, John, I'm curious also. Would your answer have evolved over time? The way that Bank of America as an institution, has that evolved in the way that you see these responsibilities?
I don't necessarily think they've changed in terms of the responsibilities. We've just gotten really focused on where we needed to get better. There was a lot of work, and I think a lot of corporations 10 years ago and had shifted to sort of a self-serve mentality around learning, which I think is an important part. So you put the onus on the individual for them to learn. But we needed to spend a little bit more hands-on time. That's what we learned. So when we created the academy, we saw that, hey, that self-paced learning is good, but there are certain things you need to practice and really see firsthand and actually have a chance to feel and touch and do in order to be successful. So I use the example of a sports team or something like that. You don't just give someone a playbook and maybe some pictures of how to do it and expect them to be good at it. You have to practice and practice. And I think we've learned a lot from organizations like the military or big sports organizations or others that say, practice is part of being great. And so that's been the one thing we've changed over time. The other one is this manager focus. So we've invested a lot and made it more really, I guess, consistent across the enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the challenges of a big company is it's easy to create silos and different approaches so that when you move from one team or one manager to another, it could be a totally different process, a different vocabulary. So we're trying to create some common threads around the manager process and the development process that connect those things.
That makes a lot of sense. John, one thing we've heard over the past 3 days from small fintech companies to some of the largest, financial institutions in the world is how hard it is to hire talent now.
Mhm.
And so across the industry, there's definitely a need for strong talent, particularly in technology skills. And so I'd love to hear about Bank of America's reskilling and retraining efforts and how that fits into your overall employee development and retention strategy.
Yeah, it is. It's been a huge focus for us, and it's been over the past several years. As a matter of fact, when we started the academy, and even beyond just where the academy was focused, we had other groups within the company that were really focused on the same thing. And that's been, we're trying to shift from like a free agent model where you go out when you lose someone, a technologist or someone in credit or whatever, you have to go find one from somewhere else or a
Mhm.
financial advisor, to more of a draft model where we're bringing in people into entry level type jobs, or whether it be college programs or various other positions that you can join the company in and build career paths to get to those specialized roles. And we're doing that at scale. I mean, really across the board, we're trying to shift so that we have fewer entry points and more bridges that have been built to bring people from one part of the company to the next. We think that's critical. And we've done a lot of investment in starting pay. We're moving to $25 an hour across the company. So wherever you join the company, you're going to get a great starting pay. You're going to get really nice benefits. And then we're trying to create such flexibility that people can move around and upskill over time. And some of that, like I said, has been, self-paced stuff, but we've also created some programmatic connections there and more every day, so that we can take someone, vertically from someone starting in a relationship manager role all the way up to a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch, or someone joins as a financial center manager and ultimately needs to be a technologist. So we're trying to work on helping people move internally because we feel like that's the way we create the best stability within the company. We have seen that tenure is one of the biggest predictors of client experiences when our clients work with us, of the overall satisfaction of employees, the skills of the manager. So we're trying to create a more tenured specialist workforce and management workforce that's grown from within.
I love that. Even that word tenure. You don't hear a lot of stories like we used to hear decades ago of people that started in the mailroom and over time made their way to the CEO suite. We just don't hear those stories anymore. I mean, so Bank of America is looking for to nurture those employee relationships for the long term, huh?
That's exactly right. And one of the initiatives that we started, it's been a few years ago, 2018 now, was our Pathways program, and that was literally going out to nonprofits like Year Up or Unidos US, Boys and Girls Club, and actually working with them to get referrals from the communities, folks who may or may not have had any sort of college background and come into the company into an entry level job. We'll provide them with tuition reimbursement if they're interested. We'll do training, job skills training to help them be successful. We set a goal to hire 10,000 people in 5 years, and we did it in 3 from low to moderate income communities. And we've committed to another 10,000. So we'll have 20,000 people hired between 2018 and 2025, I guess, that will come into the company to these entry level jobs. And then so many of these individuals have been promoted. Some have gone back and got their degrees. I mean, there's just a number of things, benefits, again, by creating that focus on entry level and multiple on-ramps into the company so that it doesn't matter what your background is. Again, you're able to answer that question, can I be successful here, with an affirmative.
Amazing. I want to go back, John, to some of the learning opportunities that you were talking about before. How are you innovating the learning experience, the learning opportunities you provide to employees to prepare them for the future? And I know you sort of preluded some new technologies that you're using. I'd love to hear about those as well.
Well, so much really starts with just listening to them. We don't just ask them, hey, how satisfied are you with your learning? We say, how ready are you for your job? And what could you use to be better at it? And so a lot of that has led us to explore new technology and new approaches. I mentioned, just the advent of the academy itself. They wanted people dedicated to coaching, and so we've created an organization that's really dedicated to that. They then said, many of them said, hey, I'm sitting in front of a client and I'm having a hard time knowing what button to push to open up an account and how many retail organizations have you been to, and they're like, hey, I'm having technology problems. Well, that's a miserable feeling for the employee. They get, it's embarrassing. So we built technology simulators for all of our systems practically, where they could practice pushing the buttons, right? Just know what to do in order to open up. Over time, we may not need any buttons anymore. People just talk and tell, Erica how to do it. But right, we've done a lot of investment in that. We've invested in conversation simulators. So we use artificial intelligence that will simulate a conversation. It's almost like a video game where you're talking to your computer, and your computer's talking back to you as though a client would be talking to you. And we've used a lot of recordings of conversations and what clients say and how they respond to various things to inform how that works. And then ultimately, we're starting to focus on virtual reality. And, you listen to the news these days about, this whole virtual world that's being built around us. I think the next generation of talent will be way more comfortable with that than I am. But I've from the first day I've tried virtual reality and saw just how memorable the experience was, I was a big believer in it. And so we've built some great partnerships there and have started to put our toe in the water at scale. And plan to leverage that a lot for those really, really important moments, those hard manager conversations or those kind of tricky client conversations, presenting in front of a big audience. There's a lot of different ways that we can leverage that new technology to really upskill our workforce.
I'm curious also with this new technology, how much of this stuff are you building internally, internal builds, versus reach out to, as you mentioned, partnerships or external vendors?
Well, we've started with external vendors. It ends up sort of, I don't know how familiar you are with it. I'm learning. But we use a lot of internal resources to videotape and to put the scenarios together. We've used vendors for the actual technology itself. So the hardware and the software that runs it, the security, all of those kind of things. And obviously we've got a really strong technology organization. We spend $10 billion a year on technology. So they are very involved in making sure that the vendor technology fits into our overall infrastructure. So it's a bit of a combination, to answer your question in a long way. But it's been so far a really wonderful partnership.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I want to go back to something you said before. You mentioned tenure and its impact on employee satisfaction and client satisfaction. What other metrics do you use to judge success at the academy?
Yeah, there's a number. So we look at a couple of factors that we've found really drive overall productivity of the workforce. It really doesn't matter what position you're in. One is first year turnover. So we're really focused on, as we get people onboarded, keeping them. There's been companies, and particularly in retail organizations, where you're just churning through people. And as a financial services institution, you can't do that. I mean, you need someone who's trusted, that's consistent, that knows how to have conversations with clients. So we put a lot of focus on driving that metric down, and we've seen dramatic reductions in that over time. Attrition in general is important, but the big driver for us, and I think for a lot of organizations, is getting the new people to stick. And part of that is great onboarding, and part of that is making sure that you've got good cohorts and consistent entry points, so that people aren't entering all over the organization in a kind of ad hoc way. So we've really focused a lot of attention on that. We focus on internal promotion metrics. We've found that when you're able to promote someone internally from one role to the next, an adjacent role, if you will, then they're typically productive way faster. They're able to get up to speed much more quickly because they don't have to learn the company. They know a lot of those cultural elements. They've got a set of resources and connections that help them get things done. We measure speed to productivity, meaning just how quickly can they do the job is really the simplest way to think about it. Does it take a year to get proficient? And how can we shrink that by creating practice reps? And that's really what we've seen is you can do a virtual reality module and learn something in 15 minutes that it may have taken 2 weeks to learn before. I mean, that's probably not exactly accurate in terms of the scale, but you see what I'm saying? It's like the more you can give people experiential learning, the better they're able to get proficient quickly. And we do that in the technology space by providing sandboxes for them to practice coding or whatever it may be that they need to learn. analytics, et cetera. I mean, there's just a number of ways that we, instead of just saying, here's the manual, hey, go do this project, we give them lots of practice reps before they do it. And that's given us a big leg up in terms of speed to productivity.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to zoom out a little bit, and this is kind of a big picture question. How would you describe the Bank of America workforce 5 years from now?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think that I think as a big company, we still need to be very nimble. And I think that we are a purpose-driven company. And we've really, our CEO, all the way through the entire organization, have put a lot of focus on making sure people understand our purpose very simply and how we're going to operate. And so part of my role in the academy is to make sure that as we onboard people, or as we train managers, or as we help people, that they understand the why. Why? What is our purpose? What are we trying to do? So 5 years from now, I think we will be more and more unified around that purpose. I think that we will have many more internal bridges that have been built within the company, so that we are making sure that no matter where you enter, that you're able to move around and be more successful in roles that may have seemed too far-fetched before. I remember just a few years ago, there wasn't a great internal pipeline for folks to move from a relationship manager to a financial advisor. Now we've built that, and we've got a really robust pipeline of people moving from our financial center channel into Merrill Lynch branches. We've got to do that same thing for technologists and get it at scale. And we've got to do that same thing for people leading in finance or risk or other things, where we're not so reliant on the silos, but we're able to cross-pollinate across our teams. It makes us a better company and a more integrated company when you've got folks who've done a lot of different roles, working across different spaces to build a team better. And I think that, I think that the managers of our company will be far progressed from where they are in terms of just being coaches and supporters and folks who really help elevate the performance of our organization. And we're going to spend a lot of time and energy in making sure that happens.
So we have just 3 more minutes left in this talk, and I find it fascinating. We did have a question come in from the audience, from Bianca. It says, "Hi, John. Based on the metrics that you track and the changes that you've made to the recruitment, training, promotion models, what can you share that shows that these changes are working?"
Yeah, there's been a lot. I would say that starting with, we've had 30,000 internal promotions over these past few years. That to me is a fantastic measure of our success. The fact that we've hit our 10,000 person pathways hiring target in a very short period of time shows that we've really built a great new strategic pipeline into our low to moderate income communities. The fact that our turnover is at an all-time low and our employee engagement scores are at almost all-time highs is really encouraging to me. And I think we're going to continue to try to work to get better. I'll tell you this, we're not close to perfect. And so we're going to continue to listen to our employees and try to get better every day.
What about advice you'd have based on your experience to share with other companies developing internal educational tools or platforms?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things. One is start by listening. I mean, just be very practical about it. So what do you need to be successful in the job? So change the question to start to think about things that way. Try to break down silos and think end to end about your talent processes and really get into the details of journey mapping. What does an employee experience look like from the day they join the company to they're the CEO? And how does that all work? Because if you don't design things, they're probably not working well, or they're certainly not working as well as you'd intend. So it is hard work. I'll tell you, a lot of the stuff we've done has been dirty work. It's getting into processes, really digging in, listening to the voice of the process, the voice of the employees to try to make them better. And be innovative, think big. We wanted to create this academy to be something that people wrote books about. I mean, that's kind of may sound silly to all of you, but we really had that attitude when we built. We said, we really want to make this world class. So as a company, and I will tell you, there's a lot of people within each of your companies that would join that vision for your company to say, hey, I want to do something world class for our employees. And there's been a lot of momentum ever since we started.
Amazing. We all want to be world class. John, I've really appreciated your insights and hearing about the workforce of the future. And thanks for joining us on the Big Bang Theory conference.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Take care.